and Ali, who was on, was it last show? Two shows ago.
Yeah.
2 shows ago to talk about her theatre, but she's not here to talk about that. She's here in an ambassador role to talk about Darcey's dream with Petra. So I welcome Petra and Ali back on the podcast. Hello, not podcast. It is a podcast, but also a show.
It will be.
Welcome, guys.
Hi.
It's really nice to have you guys on. So I guess first of all, Petra, we'll start with you. Is to just the stereotypical opening question is to say, what is Darcey's dream?
So Darcey's Dream is a North East based charity. We were set up in 2017 and we support bereaved families and siblings across the North East when they've lost a baby or child through any circumstances, so right from miscarriage through to stillbirth, neonatal, sudden infant death, terminal illness, accidental illness, anything we will support, and we support the whole family, but we have a massive focus on siblings. So siblings often get overlooked when a child dies, and the focus is very much on mum and dad. So we've tried to fill that gap and really make a focus on siblings and make sure that they're included in memory making and make sure that they get the correct help and support right from the word go, and that they never ever get overlooked.
Yeah, because I mean, I think me and Ricky were both nodding there while you said that, because I guess there's so many connotations of other examples of where kind of siblings get left out. I mean, I'm the youngest of 3. And I always find like my parents being divorced, for example. I mean, and it's not the same, but it's similar in the sense of that you sometimes parents with something so traumatizing. I'm preaching to the converted here, but like they kind of get so absorbed in that in dealing with that that they forget sometimes there's other offspring to.
It's really difficult because you do become so absorbed in your own grief that you can't really think about anyone else. But when you've got young children, so when I lost Darcey, she left behind a twin sister and an older sister. My twin sister was 9.5 weeks old and her older sister was just turning 2. So they were really young. So yes, I was dealing with my own grief, my husband was dealing with his own grief.
Yep.
But I very much had to do something for those children because they weren't at an age where they could just kind of get on with things.
Yeah.
They, I had a twin that wouldn't settle. I had a child that didn't understand where his sister had gone.
I was going to ask you that.
Yeah, I mean, she just didn't understand. Nobody tells you how to deal with that, how to answer those questions. It's not something that you're ever taught in life, how to tell a child that the sister's died. And it's just basically, I mean, the words that broke my heart was, it was probably about 4 weeks later, and nobody had once kind of mentioned Layla, Darcey's twin sister, or Amelia. They'd never asked about them if they needed any help. So Amelia turned around to me at 2 because she's quite advanced for her age, and she's like now 4 going on 44. She thinks she knows everything. But she turned around at 2 and she said, "Mummy, no one cares about me."
Oh.
And they only and she said, "I miss Darcey just as much as you." And it's true, because they've lost a part of them as well. So it's not just mum and dad that have lost a part of them, it's them that have lost a part.
Yeah, it's sort of like, it was like memories, like it's memories, isn't it? They've established some memories and a bond and stuff like that, and it doesn't mean...
She'd established a bond with her, she had memories, and then obviously she thought she had a lifetime with her sister, and then that's just...
All those first pictures would have been with her sister, and then she's asking like where she's gone, what's happened, those sorts of questions.
She was constantly saying, "Where's Darcey?" And you don't know what to say. So I had to I asked for help from numerous different charities and hit brick walls with them all, national charities. It was such a tick box system. It was if your child had died on maternity or if your child had died on here, and I said it shouldn't matter what's happened to my child, where my child died. I just want help for my other children.
That's
that was really frustrating, that I just couldn't get the help that I needed if I didn't live in a certain area, because I said I lived in Northumberland. They said it was an affluent area and I couldn't have this. And I just thought, this is ridiculous. Like, you have to, if you're a charity that provides a service, then you provide a service to anybody. It doesn't matter what the circumstances are or who they are.
Did they actually say affluent area?
Yeah, well, because of the circumstance that Darcey died in, and because she suddenly just stopped breathing, and then Layla was treated for sepsis and meningitis 4 days after that. So I went from having 2 healthy twins to one that stopped breathing and they couldn't resuscitate her, and another child that was in hospital being treated for 2 severe infections, and a child at home. And then I was paranoid that she was just going to stop breathing, so I contacted a charity that's quite well known nationwide for a breathing monitor for her. which attaches to them to keep an eye on their breathing, and it sets off an alarm if there's a change in the breathing. And it took them 4 days to ring me back, which I thought was unacceptable anyway from a charity when you're dealing with such grief. And when they did ring me back, they said, "You live in Northumberland, it's an affluent area, so you can't have one."
That's incredible.
Wow. Absolutely crazy.
That was their response. So and then just other charities that I contacted for help for my other children. They were just, because Darcey wasn't a miscarriage and she wasn't a stillbirth, because she'd lived, but because she didn't die from a terminal illness, they didn't want to help my other children. I just thought, this is absolutely ridiculous. They need help. They've lost their sibling.
Like, that's what's silly about that is, like, that's beyond their control. The idea to, like, kind of blame them for that almost
they're massively disadvantaged. A grieving sibling is massively disadvantaged through no fault of their own, because they can't control their brother or sister dying.
Which is, I mean, we're essentially describing discrimination there. You're being discriminated against for something that's not beyond your abilities. For one aspect of discrimination, but I think a very poignant one. That's one of the reasons when I was doing the introduction, seeing who was on the show, one of the things that, because Ricky sends me a little bit of notes about who he's booked, and I love the idea that it said in the notes that you, under any circumstances. I mean, I think that's sort of key. There's a couple of questions on the back of that, and I know Ricky will want to ask you some stuff, but let's get Ali into the mix. So Ali, how did you find out about Darcey's dream?
Basically, I went along to one of their balls, and I just loved everything that it was about with the
A
children.
ball? That sounds so
They have a fundraising
flamboyant.
ball.
We have an annual ball every year.
I just want to start going.
We went along though, and we just thought that it was absolutely amazing. I work with children who, some of them do have life-limiting illnesses, and we just thought it was the type of thing that some of our families could benefit from. As it happened, we lost a child in the September, and then obviously Petra came into that, and then we've just lost a child this week as well, so Petra's been supporting them through that as well. The other thing what True Colours linked in with Petra was we do the distraction therapy for them, which is something that they do for the children. Children come to us for 8 weeks, and that's supported by Darcey's Dream and ourselves, and to give the children something to focus on, which is really, really good.
Of course,
Everything about them is what it's all about families, about supporting everybody.
I'm actually really, really pleased you said that, because then that links to, I mean, you feel free for both of you to ask this, but Petra, when you were talking about, like, sort of helping siblings and all sort of stuff, and then you mentioned the term grief, because that's essentially what people like that are going through. And I was thinking about this because I was reading the notes on the way here to the show about the people we had on, and in particular in relation to you, that I was thinking about grief in my own life. Because obviously we do a show about mental health and about sort of giving people advice, whether it's through experience or through yourselves, and a sort of doing an organisation helping a particular person. And the thing I find dangerous in certain situations is when people say ignore a problem, like as in, some parents I know, like, for example, say tomorrow's a new day, but I find in a lot of problems that's actually really dangerous. You should actually dealt with it. But I find interesting, and this is why, feel free to agree or disagree, I just wanted to ask you because I was curious, is, for example, my friend Ricky knows this, that my friend John died a couple of years ago, and I experienced grief, and I found the thing that was really useful, because I find with grief, you always are going to feel it, for want of a better phrase, like that. To a certain extent, you're going to feel it. It's just you can't be overwhelmed by it. So I found the good thing about this was distraction. So, and the reason I think it's an important question to ask here is, in this particular example, because it's very specific, is distraction actually a good coping mechanism?
Now, just on the end of that, you might as well sort of, let listeners know what distraction therapy is. Sort of outline it.
So distraction therapy is long been a proven technique, especially with children, but can work with adults as well. So a grieving child is still a child, so they still need to be having fun in their life. They still need to get out there and mingle with other children. So when a child's lost their brother or sister, everything at home, as you can imagine, is horrific. Mum and dad are very sad. Nobody's, they've not only lost their sibling, they've lost the mum and dad that they once knew, because their mum and dad will never ever be the same again. So they're kind of doubly grieving. And then those siblings are dealing with their grief. It's very, very difficult for children to process their emotions. So at Darcey's Dream, we do support them through counselling, through lots of other support mechanisms through school and things like that. We work with their school to help make sure that they've got support at home and at school, so that they can process those emotions as they're going through their life. But the sibling distraction therapy is unique to us. We're the only charity that we're aware of that offer it, and to see the difference it makes to the children is just absolutely massive. I mean, every single child says to us, "Thank you for thinking of us," and it shouldn't be like that. You know, they should have been thought of from the beginning. But sibling distraction therapy basically is, we work with lots of North East companies, with True Colours as one of them. We do theatre, dance, swimming, mermaid lessons, cupcake making, football, you name it. We work with loads of different companies to provide these sessions for the siblings that have lost a brother or sister, and they basically get to go and interact with other siblings that might have lost their brother or sister, children their age, and it gets them just out of the house. Parent or guardian or a friend of the family can take them if mum and dad aren't up to it, and it gets them out and having fun again, because as much as we are supporting them in the background with counselling and other support networks for their mental health, they've still, in order for their mental health to survive and to not have a massive effect in later on in life, they still have to be a child, they still have to have fun in life, and we put that fun back into their life when everything at the minute in their life is pretty bleak.
I mean, going back to the sort of the service, the lack of support service that you noticed that inspired what you're doing. I mean, we're all talking about mental health and in particular child mental health now. You'd think when the dealing with grievance and loss at such an early age, that sort of input would be there from the start, wouldn't it? And you've noticed
that's what's so frustrating, because, you know, obviously mental health is such a big thing. It's talked about all the time now, and you know, early intervention is the biggest thing and the key thing with children, because if they go through life without having the correct support around them with their mental health, then that can have massive impacts, not only on their personal life, on their work life, on absolutely everything, school life. And the most frustrating thing is that I looked for help on all different avenues, through GPs, through health visitors, and I just hit a brick wall every single time. I said, bring them back when they're 4. What, so they've got to suffer with their mental health until they're 4 years old?
I mean, it's funny because funny as in ironically funny. I mean, is that the things that you describe in terms of fun and distraction, because as I said, we did a podcast with Nikki, who's a collaboration, and one of the things we talked about is having like individual happiness, is that it's and all the stuff you were describing, what I find, and I mean, I'm frustrated, so I imagine someone doing a charity like yourself must be 10 times worse, is going, why do we in that particular aspect treat children any differently? I don't, like, in terms of the idea of, because in particular, you know, they have this idea about sort of protecting children, but I also think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the other aspect of dealing with something as terrible as this is when the child feels sad, is to let them be sad at the same time, you know. So I feel like do you feel like we've kind of deal with things the wrong way around? Like, so when a person's sad or a child's sad, we go, can you not stop being sad, and try and find a way to not be sad, whereas maybe that's the time they can resonate with what's happened, but then have fun when they want to have fun, you know, like
that's what it's all about. I mean, obviously the support that we work with families closely as a team, as well as the counsellors working with them, and you know, we work with things like allowing time for so in our house it would be called Darcey time. So we have Darcey time, we talk about Darcey, we do things for Darcey, we make things for Darcey, or whatever the kids want to do, and then they kind of feel that they can then open up a little bit, and they can let their feelings out. And obviously the best place for a child to explore any of their emotions is at home with mum and dad, because that's their safe place, that's their safe haven. They know that mum and dad are going to protect them through anything that they, you know, they're feeling. But obviously it does overspill at school, and it does, you know, so it's about having all of the support network in place wherever that child is, so that we know that they can turn to somebody. And yes, we would like them to do most of their exploring their emotions at home or with the charity, so that we know that they're getting the correct support. But it's about putting those support in so that we know that wherever they turn, they've got somebody there that's going to catch them, and they're not just going to fall through the net and not have that help and support. And it is, you know, they have to talk about it. They have to, you know, some parents think, well, I don't want to talk about death to my child, and this was my opinion, because when I started to research how I was to go about telling my 2-year-old that her sister had died, I mean, I envisaged telling her that she was a star, And then I was like, actually,
this is vital. Actually,
yeah,
just help me with this
because it's all very well and good saying that a child's now a star, but I mean, for an adult to understand how a baby becomes a star is quite difficult. So to expect a child to understand that is really, really difficult.
Yeah.
So the whole thing is about being truthful. There's a lot of things that you wouldn't discuss with children, like post-mortem results and things like that, but as much as you can be truthful with that child, you have to be, and as much as you don't want death to be part of their life, it is part of their life, and it will be forever part of their life because they've lost their brother or sister. And I literally had to tell my 2-year-old, and it was a horrific time. I sit down and had to say, Darcey's died, and then she was terrified that I was going to die because she thought everybody around her was going to die. So that's how we then support families to allow that child to understand that not everybody in their family is going to die. And you know, yes, we can say that Darcey's a bright star above us, but she recognises that Darcey's died, that she lives in heaven. And the best thing with children is that if you tell them that they're an angel, because that's what they are, so they're still of human form, she still looks like Darcey, she's just got wings because she needs wings to live in heaven, but she doesn't need wings because she lives on earth. And that's how she then understands that. And she'll have a conversation with loads of people and tell her that she's got one sister on earth, one sister in heaven, one little brother on earth. And she'll happily tell people of that because she understands it. She'll go and visit Darcey's grave, she'll put flowers down for her, and we talk about it. And I think because we're so open with talking and we teach that to families, she feels like she can talk about Darcey whenever she wants, so she doesn't bottle it all up, and it then doesn't become a problem with her mental health. It's because she feels like she can talk whenever she needs to talk.
And I'm back in my head here. I would like to also tell you to do memory boxes. To have another camp, which the memory boxes are amazing.
The memory boxes they go out to all northeast hospitals, and they're very much focused on including siblings in memory making because they often get overlooked at memory making as well. So when Darcey died, I was given a beautiful memory box, and it was beautiful, but it was all for me and Darcey, not really much for my husband either. And I just thought, what about our sisters? Like, they will want a memory to treasure. So we've created a box, and probably one of the biggest feedback that we get from these boxes is the sibling link bears. And so it contains bears that one bear will go with mum and dad, one bear will go with the child that's passed away, and then there's a bear for every sibling, and that the bear's the same, so they've all got a link forever. And a lot of the children that we work with, they use that as they talk to that bear as if they're talking to their sister or their brother, and they sleep with it and they give it a kiss. I mean, my little girl, every single night she has something called a Darcey bunny, because obviously this was before we created our memory boxes, so she has something called a Darcey bunny, and she gives her a kiss, and that Darcey bunny carries the kiss to Darcey's Darcey bunny, so that she knows that she's given her a kiss good night. And it means the world to see it, to what the kids.
I think a really good summary, because unfortunately, because we need to wrap up now, because it's really completely flown by. I think a good summary of this is, I think it's less about putting on like a child. I mean, you can include adults in this as well, but obviously we're talking about children here. Is don't put on how to help them, like help them on their own terms. I think that's really essentially what we've been talking about here, is that it's less about going, this is how I think you should deal with this, rather than, okay, how are you dealing with this, and then let's go from there.
Children have to have a voice. If they're grief, and they have to have a voice, and they have to be able to deal with it in their own way.
One very last point. Despite all the frustrations that we've talked about, how healing, therapeutic is running the charity, knowing that what you're doing is helping so many others.
As quick as you can, because we really need to wrap up.
Absolutely amazing. And the work we do is so rewarding, as much as it's heartbreaking to do with families every single day. To see the difference it makes to those families, that they know that they've got 24-hour support from us, is amazing.
Great, because what I want to wrap up is to say, obviously people can get in touch. I know, because you tweeted earlier, which is thank you for doing that, is at Darcey's Dream on Twitter. How can people get involved if they have any bereavement in that sense?
We've got our biggest campaign that we've got running at the minute is called #10Lens for Darcey, which is raising sibling loss awareness across, trying to get it nationwide. So my eldest little girl, who's just turned 4, swims to celebrities, and people can get involved and swim that with her. They can donate to our campaign. People can get involved through the website. We welcome anybody that wants to help and volunteers at events. We run events every single month. And any ideas are absolutely welcome. We're on Facebook at Darcey's Dream, Instagram at Darcey's Dream, and we've got at 10Lens for Darcey as well on Facebook, and LinkedIn, and YouTube. If you search us, you can find loads of videos about the services that we offer.
Great. And I know you have a partnership with True Colours, is that right?
Yeah, what Suplas do are just distraction therapy.
Yeah. So I mean, we should really come and see your theatre, Ali. It would be lovely. So yeah, we'll have to organise that because as I said, we went to one of the centres that we promote on this as well. So it would be cool to go down and have a chat with you and stuff, and see the place. That would be lovely. It's Long Benton, isn't it, where it's based? Yeah, not too far. Yeah, cool. Excellent. Right. Thanks so much, guys, for coming on. Thank you for being so honest and open. And obviously, anyone listening to this who's got any bereavement like that or knows anyone who feels that they could use the help, please do get in touch with Darcey's Dream. We're happy to help. Cool. Right. We're going to need to take a break right now because we have our next guest waiting in the wings. So we're going to just play some quick ads because we're a little bit past the half hour. But